Everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am once again doing a face of the month. I believe I did this last month, and instead of just sitting down and talking about what my favorite products were, I did have a face that I did more often than not. I traveled quite a bit this month. I went to Florida and I also went to St. Thomas, so both very hot weather destinations, one of which was very, very humid. And so this is basically my travel face. This is the face that I did when I put makeup on during the day. I didn't wear makeup. I really concentrated on just making sure my skin was protected with sunscreen because I was outside a lot. But when we would go out to dinner, I just wanted to put myself together a little bit. And this is basically the face that I did. So while I traveled half the month, I figured this is a good favorite face of the month to show you. So I'll go ahead and jump into this look and finish up with my favorite fragrances of the month. I do already have on corrector, but that's it. And my SPF today is my Numbuzzin #1 SPF. I will go ahead and say I did not take that SPF with me when I traveled this month because it is not water resistant, it's not sweat resistant, and it doesn't have the highest possible UV protection. For that, in my collection, it is the La Roche-Posay UV Moon. So that's what I took with me and wore in both of my trips. I will link both of those down below. But as far as like an everyday, not gonna be out in the sun for a long period of time, not gonna be sweating type of sunscreen, I love the Numbuzzin. I think for foundation, it is not gonna be a surprise what my favorite was this month based on the review I did earlier in the month, and it is the Lisa Eldridge Seamless Skin Enhancing Tint. This has blown me away. I absolutely love it, and due to all of y'all's comments, you do too, for the ones that have tried it, I have only had one comment say that they didn't like it and didn't work out for them, and I would call that pretty glowing reviews across the board. I am in the shade T7. I use about 6 drops. I am using a powder foundation on top of this, so I'm not using this as something that I need as much coverage from when I was using it in my review video because I am using the extra coverage on top. I had a specific question in regards to how it works under powder foundation, so you will see in this video. But I really just want to concentrate it like where I have maybe some redness and just kind of stipple it on those areas as a primer / precursor to the powder foundation. Such a good product. I highly recommend going back and watching my review if you haven't already. I tried it out with multiple SPFs, multiple powders, and I try to give you as extensive of my thoughts as possible in that video. So I'm not even using all 6 of those drops, and I'm using it sparingly. Again, just where I need some redness covered up. I am using the wrong brush. I just picked it out and I was like, oh, this will work. And it did work, but it's not the one I meant to use. This is the Sigma Soft Angled Cheek brush, but the new one that I talked about in my Playing With New Makeup video. They came out with a set, I believe it's 5 new brushes with soft bristles. I meant to use the F48 Soft Coverage brush, but this one worked really well too. So these are definitely favorites. I love every single one that comes in the set. I think you can get them individually. I will link them down below. But the F43 worked great for what I wanted it to do. My concealer of choice this entire month, I don't think has changed from last month. And it's the Sicily Phytocerans Eclat Eye Concealer #2. I mean, it's in my top 5. I love this concealer. I use it obviously quite a lot, and for some reason I have just been reaching for it. I think because it has a little bit more coverage than my Chantecaille Future Skin. The color is so good for me because it has a little bit of that peach undertone to it, so it helps further aid in my color correction, and my dark circles have been horrible this month. I mean, really bad. So I need that extra bit of coverage, even though with this and the corrector, my darkness still shows through. It definitely helps. And it wears beautifully. I'm talking, I never have to worry about it creasing or caking. It is about as flawless of a concealer as you can get. Yes, it is Sicily, so it's going to be more expensive, but it is also a whole lot of product at 0.6 fluid ounces, which is probably double, if not more than double, what normal concealers have. Now for powder foundation, I have quite a few to choose from, like a lot. But I chose to travel with this one for a couple of reasons. The reason I chose a powder foundation in general is because I knew I was going to hotter places, definitely more humid, and I was especially grateful for this in St. Thomas because it was unseasonably humid, according to the locals there. You walked out and you put on a sweat. So I needed something that didn't start off as a liquid or cream, but by the end of the night was going to look like one, and a powder foundation was the way to go. I chose to bring the Laura Mercier Smooth Finish Foundation Powder because this one is a little bit more matte out of my collection, but it's not flat matte. It just isn't glowy or dewy on first application, so it can hold up a little bit more in that humid environment and look the perfect amount of glow and luminous by the end of the night, if that makes sense. So I am in the shade number 2-in-1, and I traveled with, despite its bulk, my Lawless Multi-Use powder brush because this is my favorite for powder foundation. So I would just stipple that on top. Again, I'm really just using this to kind of set it down, add a little bit more coverage because the SPF that I took, actually I took both of my La Roche-Posay's, which I have one that's tinted and one that's not. But when I wore it under makeup, I used the untinted one. And sometimes I didn't use it at all because it was already dark by the time I did my makeup. And then I like to use the Sigma F08, which is kind of this like angled precision powder or concealer brush, and use that for areas where that big brush maybe won't get to as well. I've had some really bad hormonal breakouts this month, so taking a smaller brush like this and really stippling a powder foundation on top of it is going to help cover those up as well. For bronzer, I had a couple of favorites. I'm going to use the one I've had the longest this month, even though they are both new to the month of April. But I will mention my House Labs that I hauled in the Sephora sale. You can tell I've used this a lot because the H is very worn down and almost not even legible anymore. I'm in the shade Light Level 3. The only thing I don't love about this, even though the packaging is really pretty, this kind of matte, rubbery texture really has a tendency to have other products cling onto it. But that's very critical. I really like this color. I like the formula. It's beautiful. The blushes are beautiful. This whole line is beautiful. But the one that I've had the longest and traveled with the most is the brand new RMS Beauty Redimension Hydra Bronzer. If you're new to my channel, you may not know how obsessed I am with the Hydra powder blushes. I have every shade. I love them so much. The formula is amazing. So when they came out with this powder bronzer, I had to get my hands on it. This is in the shade Malibu Muse. Now, I have been loving the Sigma F43 soft angled cheek brush that I used accidentally for my foundation for bronzer. So I'm just gonna wipe off any excess foundation. I really did not use a lot, so it's not gonna take much to get that off. And then use this for bronzer. How this differs from the House Labs is it's a little bit warmer in color, this particular color. And the formula in general is a baked gelée. So it's gonna be a little bit more luminous, have a little bit more of a sheen to it than the House Labs, which really comes off on my skin more matte. This one does come in various shades. I think there's 4 to 5 shades. This is the only one I have and the only one I've seen in person because I did order this online, but I am very happy with it. I love how it looks on the skin. I really did not think that I wouldn't because RMS doesn't really make a powder product, especially, that I don't love. And then for blush, especially my last trip, I don't think I had it in my first trip. I took my Jane Iredale, the spring collection blushes with me there. I will link those as well. But the Rare Beauty Luminous Powder Blush in Sheer, I took, and it's the only blush I used when I was in St. Thomas. It is so beautiful. I love this blush so much for a lot of different reasons. I love the shade, but I love the fact that when I use it, I don't use a separate highlight, as you'll be able to see, because it is indeed luminous and you just don't need that extra highlight, especially if you are in a humid place where you're going to be kind of making your own highlight in the form of sweat anyways. But see how it just gives such a nice pop of luminosity to the cheek. It is also beautiful on the eyes. Beautiful. The last day we were there, I just did not have any motivation to do eyeshadow. I stuck this on. I smudged out some of my Victoria Beckham cinnamon liner, and that was all I did. And it just made my blue eyes pop. It was subtle, but still noticeable, made a difference, but it wasn't overdone. It was just perfect. Y'all know I love using blushes on the eyes, and this is no exception. I will probably be getting more of these shades. Now, using that, again, I did not use a separate highlighter. If I did this month, it was still my Gressa eye tint in the shade Aureo, A-U-R-E-O, which I think I had in my last month's face. I just love it so much. So if you want to see what it looks like on the skin, basically look at any of my videos this month or go back and look at that video. But it is just a very pretty, I don't even know if you're going to be able to see it. Yeah, a little bit, but subtle sheen. And again, it's an eye tint. I've used it on the eyes, but I love it on the cheeks for a highlight. So that's it for the face. Let's go on to the eyes. A couple of different products for the eyes. The one that I'm not going to show today, but I did wear quite often this month, is the Multichromatic Metal Reflecting Eyeshadow from Make Beauty in the shade Dream Dust. This is the bronzy shade. Oh my goodness, look at that. It is so pretty. The pigment on these is insane. You can use a fluffy brush to make it less pigmented. You can use your finger to make it the most pigmented, or just a regular eyeshadow brush, like a flat shadow brush for an in-between. And it's just so pretty. You can use it by itself as kind of a wash of color, which I did in one of my videos. Was it this month or last month? I can't remember. Not long after I got this. And I just love it, especially for this time of year. Now, the palette that I travel with and use the most if I was wearing makeup was my Rowan Beauty eyeshadow palette in 75 degrees. This is one of the newer ones. I have, is it Eyes on You, which is like a pretty copper palette. This one is more bronze and gold. And it has one cream eyeshadow right here, and then 3 shimmer toppers, whereas the Eyes on You has 2 shimmer toppers, a cream eyeshadow, and a matte eyeshadow. So I have basically just been taking this cream eyeshadow right here. I did this on an Instagram reel too. This is basically the same look. And taking just a dense shadow brush. This is a Real Techniques, actually expert concealer brush, but I love to use it for cream shadows. And putting that all over my lid and into the crease. I think I had this look on in my Cell Cycle Catalyst video, my last skincare spotlight video, which is definitely a favorite this month. I didn't bring any skincare in here, but that was probably my one skincare favorite this month. So check that video out if you haven't already. I'm not using any separate crease color, so I'm kind of just taking that up into the crease and blending it out. If you wanted to, you could just use whatever bronzer you use. The RMS bronzer would be very pretty in this step. And then I'm going to take one of these darker shades. It really doesn't matter which one, on a Rephr 28. So this is a little bit of a smaller, flat shadow brush. Get a little bit more detailed because I'm only wanting to put this on the outer corner. And I'm kind of just mixing those 2 shades together. And this is something that when you first apply it, you're like, you can't even really see that. But when the look is done, like, I feel like it's a difference. And this one might actually be cream. The more that I like feel on it, they serve the same purpose. These are very like shimmery, but they don't have fallout, which is really nice. And I just love having these kind of quads or single shadows like the Make Beauty to travel with. It just takes up less space, makes deciding on what your look is going to be way easier because you just don't have that many options. And then I'm going to take this really pretty shimmery gold shade, so pretty, with my finger, and I'm going to concentrate that on the inner part of my lid. And then finally, I'm going to take a Rephr 13 Mini, and use that same cream shadow that I put all over the eyes and into the crease underneath. I did my mascara off camera, which was the L'Oreal Voluminous in Burgundy. The only thing we have left is lips. And despite the full face of makeup, I still wanted a fresh look while I was traveling. And honestly, it's no different than normal. I really just like a gloss. I like the shimmer and sheen on it. It's most comfortable to me. And I really like the new Sephora lipstick that I got. This is the Sephora number 18 Sheen Brilliance gloss. I have my date that I get everything. I put all of my labels on covering the name. I will put it in the description box. But this is basically, despite what it looks like, a clear balm type of product with some shimmer in it. Has a little bit of a peach look to it. And if I wanted to add a little bit more color, because I know stuff doesn't translate on camera as well and it looks very light, I would just add a lip liner. And this is the Lawless lip liner in Cinnamon. See, that just gives a little bit more color, but you still don't sacrifice the sheen. Now, very quickly, I will talk about my 2 most used perfumes this month, and I haven't put on perfume yet, and I think I'm actually going to mix them. One is something that is a must-have, in my opinion, if you are a very clean, fresh, musk type of fragrance person. And this is the Matière Premier Parisian Musk perfume. I love Matière Premier. I purchased French Flower from Twisted Lily. Twisted Lily sent me this one. This is the quintessential clean white t-shirt, fresh smelling, just got out of the shower scent, in my opinion. Perfect for this time of year. And it is good to mix. If you want to maybe add a little bit of a cleaner smell to a white floral or maybe a heavier perfume that you're used to using in the fall and winter, it's a great mixing type of perfume. And then I've also been loving the Vanille Afriques from Ormond Jane. This is the newest scent from them, and oh, it's so good. It is very heavy in orris butter to me, like that rich, buttery, creamy iris scent. But it's also got vanilla in it. It's very nostalgic to me. I have yet to figure out what it reminds me of, but it's beautiful. And I think I'm gonna like these put together, but these are definitely my favorite perfumes this month. I talked about them more in depth in the live I did with Abby, if you wanna check that out. So that is my favorite face and fragrance of the month for April of 2024. Cannot believe May is starting. Let me know what your favorites were this month. All products will be listed and linked down in the description box. Thank y'all so much for watching. Be sure and like and subscribe before you leave so you don't miss out on any future videos. And I hope you all go out and have a very blessed day.